Hi everyone, Comic Reviewer here. This time reviewing on the Pixar film Soul. Now, as you know, Soul is a 2020 fantasy comedy drama film, which of course was another Pixar film which has Jamie Foxx playing the role of Joe. And the whole premise of the film is meant to follow, in the city of New York, we see how a pianist known as Joe Gardner teaches music part time, and we do kind of see how once he gets a full time job there, we kind of see how his mum does urge him to take the job, but we see how Joe wants to kind of play jazz music with the big league musicians. And we do kind of see how, the big time jazz musician wants to kind of have Joe in her sort of opening spot. But we kind of see how, after an incident happens, we see how Joe ends up in the afterlife, which is called the Great Beyond, as well as the Great Before. And we do kind of see how, after desperately trying to get back into the world of the living, we see how Joe, as well as 22, who is meant to be this stubborn, arrogant, but kind of not really up for anything soul, ends up back on Earth, and we kind of see how after a mix-up, they end up in different bodies, with 22 ending up in Joe's body, and Joe ending up in the body of some random person's cat. And this is where we're going to see the whole shenanigan thing, where, Joe has to kind of make sure 22 doesn't do anything that screws her up, and we do kind of see how 22 gets her first taste of the actual world of the living. And I think what the film does a good job is showing how Joe wants to believe that he can go the distance, that he's meant for something bigger. But the film also does a good job giving its viewers a reality check that sometimes you might not always be cut out for things, and sometimes there are just some things that you weren't always meant for. And that's a tragic but relatable thing, because there are people who think they're meant for things when they're not. I think it's like looking at Andrew Dobson, because he thought he was meant to be this animator, but never understood that criticism as well as working with people is about making hard decisions, and reboots and remakes need to happen. Oh yeah, it's kind of like, say, looking at Blockbuster Buster. He thought he was making a difference, but failed to understand that reviewing and analysing things properly takes time and work. And I think it's also kind of like looking at the guy who did Katana, because sometimes working on a project takes time and work, and sometimes you need to think things through properly. The whole point of Joe is meant to learn a hard lesson that sometimes, you can't always expect to get the things you want, and once you do, it doesn't mean anything. But you can also help inspire, help those who might need proper guidance, and give them a sense of motivation. And I think this is a lot like anyone who I've met on YouTube, as well as the people I've met, because, well, they know they can't really have got what they wanted. They had to kind of offer advice and wisdom, but sometimes advice and wisdom is a part of what learning from your experience is. It's about understanding that, you can see things realistically, but you just hope people figure it out or know what you're trying to say. And I think Joe actually does work as a character, because at first he thinks he can go the distance, but when he gets the hard truths, he does have to learn it more seriously, because at first he's seeing this more like a kid, but when he stops seeing things like a kid, he's seeing this more as an adult. And we do kind of see how, in the Great Beyond, we kind of see how, the souls kind of look like these little cloud people. We kind of see how it kind of has that feel of the whole Dragon Ball-esque feel of the afterlife. And I think, to me, Soul is definitely an enjoyable film where there's no actual villain. It still is kind of dealing with a hard truth that sometimes you aren't cut out for things. Sometimes you weren't always meant to go the distance. And sometimes those things are meant to happen for a reason, to help you understand that you can't always expect to get life on a silver platter. That's just how real life works. So I think the film definitely deserves 2 thumbs ups. Definitely good, definitely enjoyable, and definitely knows how to deal with a hard truth moral. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.